Hello, and thanks for joining us for this episode of On the Road with Kelly and Bob. I'm Bob Phillips.
And I'm Kelly Phillips. When we started this tour of all 50 states of the United States of America, we told you that some of the stories we would be sharing with you would be the expected. A good example of that being when we went to Massachusetts and spent time at Lexington and Concord. After all, it is all about the 250th birthday of the USA.
But we also told you that some of the stories we pass along will not be the expected. So here we are this week in the state of Wisconsin. What is the first thing that comes to mind when I say Wisconsin?
Well, cheese, of course, but I know that's the story we're not telling.
Yeah, well, because one of the most significant things to happen in this state is all about the freedom of the road.
So I was born in northwestern Wisconsin, a town called Chippewa Falls, which I believe has been mentioned in at least 2 or 3 Hollywood films. So if you watched the movie Titanic, Jack is from Chippewa Falls. I had about 1,000 different interests as a kid. I, wanted to be an astronaut and this and that and the other. But I came to learn, my father was a history buff. I come from a long line of just history buffs. And so my dad would sometimes read to me from history books. He is like the generation that went through World War II. He had very strong feelings. And he, like so many people, we have to teach our kids about how this happened and make sure it never happens again. So, did my undergrad in northwestern Wisconsin, and then went to UW Milwaukee to study archives and management, and did an internship at Harley-Davidson. And they didn't have budget to hire me back then. And then I got a call saying, we have a position at Harley. We'd love to see you back here. So that was 1998. So I've been here for 27 years.
Bill Jackson manages the archives at the Harley-Davidson Museum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A job, he says, he was born to do.
Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Talk about a strictly American icon. This company dates back to the earliest days of when people were starting to make the jump from horses and buggies to motorized ways of getting around.
And like most things, Harley-Davidson had humble beginnings. But the idea caught fire with the American public in almost no time at all. And Bill Jackson says it all started because a couple of friends went to a vaudeville show starring a woman on a bicycle.
William Harley had experience as a draftsman and as a bicycle repairman. There was a very small bicycle company here in Milwaukee called Mieselbach that he worked for. Arthur Davidson was the son of a toolmaker and pattern maker, and they recounted in later years they saw a vaudeville show. A very popular entertainer named Anna Held performed in Milwaukee, and she would sometimes incorporate on her stage act either a bicycle or a motorized trike, and she would sing as she rode around on this, and they were noticing the engine, and they said, well, let's build one for ourselves. And they did say this was like a bit of a lark, like let's just build one for ourselves. But we know within about a year of having done that, they were like, we think we can make a business out of this.
So it really was taking a bicycle and adding power to it, other than human power.
According to them, and we've never even seen a photo, all we have is one engineering drawing of a motorized bicycle that they built, but that didn't even survive. We don't have that here. What we do have in our earliest gallery is a motorcycle where the engine and the frame go together, because that's just going to be better and more reliable than adapting a bicycle. The first dealer was in Chicago, and it just takes off from there. Their production is doubling, or in some cases tripling, year over year. By 1913, they've opened up a huge factory in Milwaukee. That's like a period of really less than 10 years that they'd come that far.
William Harley and Arthur Davidson saw a woman singing on a motorized bicycle and had an idea that captivated America. So, in a backyard, 10 by 15 foot shed, they built their own version of this two-wheeled motorized means of traveling from here to there.
But instead of using Harley and Davidson's invention as an alternative to the automobile, people seem to gravitate toward riding a motorcycle for a different reason: the way it makes them feel.
And from there, something happened with Harley-Davidson motorcycles that just about every company in the world only wishes would happen to them. Harley-Davidson seemed to create a certain culture that is still very much alive today.
I've maintained that from the beginning almost, Harley-Davidson set out to not just build an incredible product, but to build a culture. Am I correct in that at all?
You are, and I think there's evidence as much that Harley did start a culture, but the riders took it from there. And there's things that only the riders could have done, and it's almost more like the company's job is to support them. In the earliest days, there's evidence that motorcycling was seen as much of a leisure time thing. It was also, they tried to market it as much as like their personal conveyance. Then cars and trucks really take over. The prices of automobiles come down, and by the late teens, early 20s, you've even got Harley-Davidson itself saying, we've got to reposition the motorcycle as a leisure time vehicle. But we've got evidence of motorcycle clubs in the archives in 1906, and I'm sure earlier. There's a magazine article in 1908. Harley-Davidson's very first dealer was in Chicago, and he organized just a ride around the city of Chicago. Dealers and the riders riding together is just, it's part of the Harley world. It's part of the Harley culture, and the founders of Harley actually believed in it too. It was expected, and it's expected now that you are out there talking to people. Here at this facility, we have access daily. In the nicer weather, every Thursday night is bike night, and hundreds of riders come and park their bikes and walk around and get a beer. And
More than 123 years ago, William Harley and Arthur Davidson created something that resonated with the public so strong that today there is an entire museum dedicated to its story.
we believe it to be the largest collection of unrestored Harleys in the world. There are restored bikes here, but the founders of the company started a practice of saving a motorcycle from the assembly line and keeping it as original as they could, at least as early as 1919. There's so much more to it. There's film and video, there's photographs. We wanted this museum to be as much about people as it is about the products, because it's really the people that make Harley what it is.
The Harley-Davidson culture is an American phenomenon, but it's not just Americans who have joined this exclusive club.
People from around the world have become Harley owners, with dealerships from Japan to Malaysia to South America and Europe. And the official organization, the Harley Owners Group, also called HOG, claims members from all over the world.
Bill Jackson says, Harley-Davidson represents something that people want to be able to touch and feel and be a part of, no matter what.
Is Harley-Davidson an important part of America's story?
Harley-Davidson absolutely is an important part of America's story. When you actually look at the numbers, Harley-Davidson is almost half as old as the United States itself. When you look at how many motorcycle companies came and went in the United States, just from the time that Harley sold their first bike in 1903 to the present, so many of them are gone. But it was that building of that dealer network and that the dealers riding with the customers that really, it's one of the chief reasons we're still here. It's not a given, right? It's not like there was some magic force in the universe that said Harley will always be present. There was times like things got pretty rough, whether it was economic or world wars, which nobody would have seen coming. I've often used the phrase that we hope people leave having been one step closer to Harley. And sometimes that's a rider of 50 years, and sometimes that's somebody who says, I've never been on a motorcycle in my life.
One of the things that I've heard more than one person, more than one rider say is they don't just ride a Harley-Davidson because of the way it looks or the way it runs or it's even its reputation. They ride it because they think that it is part of Americana, it's a testament to American ingenuity, and that it stands for something that's important to our country, and that's freedom.
Yeah. That's a great comment, because we've had, and I've heard this from our dealers, the level of passion they bring, because for decades, dealers started out as mechanics and racers and then became a dealer, and they'll say, and riders too, it's not what I do, it's who I am.
Our tour of the Harley-Davidson Museum and our conversation with Bill Jackson went on for quite a while, and we came away with a full appreciation for how this whole Harley-Davidson culture came to be.
One of the highlights of our trip to the HD mothership in Milwaukee was something that was not at all planned, when we just ran into some random guy walking down a hallway who stopped to talk to us.
Turns out he was Bill Davidson.
Yes, that Davidson, the great-grandson of William A. Davidson, the brother of founder Arthur Davidson, and just one member of the Davidson family that made HD what it is today.
Let's pick up with our brief conversation with him, and with more from Bill Jackson and some other Harley-Davidson folks we ran across during our trip.
Yeah, but what does it mean to you that your family started this company, this culture?
I can't even imagine what that feels like.
It's hard to put it into words and how I feel. I'm very proud. What's neat is I don't remember William A. I was not around. But I remember my grandfather, William H., and he was president for about 3 decades. And Willie, my dad, I worked alongside him and with him for many, many years. And he's still with us, thank goodness. And what's so phenomenal about our environment is that we love our customers, we love our dealers. It's like a big family. And you don't hear this word very often in the corporate world, but the word is love. And it's love because it is a family and we're engaged with the family. Mm-hmm. And Bill would be the first to share with you that we're very humble. We love being with our customers, being with our employees. We don't endorse a hierarchy in any way, shape, or form. The team of dealers, employees, and customers it's family. And what's really powerful, the same culture that you have expressed for the U.S., it's global.
It is worldwide.
And that's what's so amazing is when I travel quite a bit as an ambassador, I can go to Singapore, I can go to South Africa, it doesn't matter. It's that same feeling. And if Harley is the common thread amongst the people there, they're all family. It's the most amazing thing, even with the strong cultural differences between countries.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And we continued our tour of the Harley-Davidson Museum with Bill Jackson.
You guys have a lot of stuff, don't you?
We've got a lot of stuff. I was referencing before some of my favorite of these old magazines that you can just get lost in. I love old magazines just as a rule, but there's titles that go on and on. So this is American Motorcycling, which would have been the AMA's official magazine, but in some cases we're getting these digitized and searchable.
This is our oldest motorcycle. It's been nicknamed Serial Number 1, but it is restored, but it's the oldest Harley in our collection, possibly the oldest one in the world, circa 1903. Because really it was the same design over the course of that year. And so there's a bit of mystery about it. Like the frame is really a 1905 frame. So is this something that maybe they pieced together to represent those early bikes? But it is authentic. It's not like a modern replica. In the very earliest days, they borrowed money from the Davidson's uncle. His name was James McLay, but they nicknamed him the Honey Uncle because he was a beekeeper, and he loaned them $170 to help keep the business going.
Some of the international literature, brochure from the 1920s for Japan.
So even by the 1920s, this had spread around the world.
Oh, yeah. A brochure here in Hungarian. We've got, I think 27 is the year, we have brochures in, I don't even know how many languages. Asian languages, Eastern Europe, Western Europe. It's a tiny fraction of the whole collection.
Now, who is this picture of up here?
That's Lillian Hauerbos. She's one of our favorite stories to tell. She was a member of the Milwaukee Motorcycle Club. She eventually became a Harley-Davidson employee because she was friends with the woman who that woman, her name was Crystal Hadel, was possibly the very first woman employee ever to work for Harley. And she wrote articles for motorcycle magazines encouraging women to ride and saying, don't let people tell you it's just a man's activity, it's for women too. She and a friend took a ride through parts of Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. She documented the whole thing. This collection is relatively late coming to the company. That's her right there. This model is 1936. People who know Harley will commonly call it the knucklehead. We can go around to the other side and look at what the engine looks like. Because that's the riders later on start nicknaming Harley-Davidson engines. But there's so much on this bike that's still with us now, especially the soft-tail models. But among other things, it brought a real increase in power, which is what the riders were asking for and the dealers were telling the company, because that was the analytics in those days, where all of this vast dealer network, guess what? They're the boots on the ground. They can tell the company, here's what we want more of. So they only built about 1,100 for 1936, but the response from dealers was build more. And so elements of this motorcycle, that engine architecture is in our models now. It's a 45-degree V-twin.
And along the way on our tour, we happened upon a couple of other guys, longtime employees of Harley-Davidson, who were working on a project for the Harley Owners Group.
We asked Tim Budzian and Bruce Mata their thoughts about the incredible place where they work.
So I'm Tim Budzian, Harley Owners Group Manager, and our job is to get people out riding more, to get our owners out and enjoying this beautiful country on the back of their Harley-Davidson.
That does not sound like an unpleasant or a difficult job.
Well, somebody's got to do it. Yeah. And that somebody might as well be us.
So tell me what you think about this statement. Harley-Davidson didn't just build an incredible product. They built a culture around it.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. And our riders created this beautiful culture. I mean, it transcends politics, gender, creed, everything. You ride a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, you're in this great brother and sisterhood, and it really is an amazing and powerful thing. Those of us that work here, many of us, it's not just about what we do, it's really who we are. We are part of this fabric of this great company.
So as Tim was saying, we're part of this. We're part of Harley-Davidson, but it's in our blood long before we ended up here. I'm closing in next year on 50 years of riding motorcycles. It'll be 23 years I've been with the motor company, with Harley Owners Group the whole time. I've had the opportunity to work the whole East Coast is what my region is now, everything from Maine to Florida. From there, I also at one point was international manager, so I covered all of Asia and Latin America. So I can tell you that there is a worldwide draw to Harley-Davidsons. There is a motorcycling culture, but I think Harley speaks to more people than any other brand. And whether I was in Mexico City, if I was in Malaysia, Costa Rica, Japan, it was just, I was welcome. No matter where I went, I was, oh my gosh, you're a Harley rider, you're with us. And it's just, it's really, if you haven't had the opportunity to ride a motorcycle or ride with a group, particularly with Hog, and then get outside the country and see what it's like, it's almost indescribable. I'm just proud to be even a small part of it.
And to wrap it all up, we talked a little more with Bill Jackson about his experience working with Harley-Davidson. Were you a Harley-Davidson biker before you had the job or anything?
I was not. So the company makes it very easy for you to learn. And so I took the beginner course through the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. Within about 2 years, I had purchased my first motorcycle, a Fat Boy.
Your first one was a Fat Boy?
Yeah.
Wow.
And actually, one of the inspirational things for me was the movie Terminator 2, which I had seen years before.
Yes.
A fantastic movie, but I'm sitting there in the theater going, that is the coolest looking motorcycle I've ever seen in my life. And I didn't know how to ride yet. So naturally, when I bought my first bike, it was a Fat Boy or nothing. You know, if something came up that I couldn't work here someday, or, you know, maybe I'll retire someday, maybe I won't. But Having a Harley in the garage is just going to be part of my life. It is, and you might have even heard this or experienced this yourselves. It's very therapeutic. Being on a motorcycle, what it can do to just, I don't even know why, but what it does to clear the head and kind of get you away from other thoughts. It's incredible.
Well, I think when you first started riding a Harley, long before I was around, it was something to de-stress you.
That was my reason, was that, I wanted something at that point where I was alone and just feeling life.
Yes.
We hear from so many people in the Harley world that say, I met my spouse because of motorcycling. I don't know if you know that. So the band, the Doobie Brothers, Patrick Simmons, the guitar player and vocalist, met his wife at Sturgis, and she's legit on her own because she's a motorcycle historian. She's written books about women motorcyclists, and so they've been here. We've helped her out with historical things. She's helped us out, but the fact that they met at Sturgis, I mean, of course.
For those who might be listening to this who are not riders, explain Sturgis.
Well, Sturgis is the largest motorcycle rally in the world. It started very, very simply in the late 1930s. And some people do associate it with Harley, but it's everybody, right? That's the idea. You don't have to ride a Harley. You can ride whatever.
And there's other events like that, but Sturgis is the worldwide one. I mean, people have come from around the world.
Have you been amazed uncovering the history of Harley? Are you still learning today?
Absolutely. Part of the joy of my job, and I know my colleagues have the same thing, is research can be the favorite thing that we do. I mean, I was literally looking at magazines from 1906 before you showed up this morning. And it pulls you in, and I think I can only spend 15 minutes with this magazine, and you end up spending 90 minutes because that's cool. Over the years, we've been getting these things digitized and searchable, and so we've known about some of these people, but now we can bring up much more detailed information. Something you find in these old magazines over the years, and Harley's had its own magazine going back to 1916, is they themselves would write the articles, which is just gold, right? It's not like they report. It's like what you do. You let people tell you in their own words. That's what the motorcycle press was doing with these folks back in the days. Just write it and send it in, and we'll tell your story, and they'll send the photographs.
Do you talk to the Harley people that come here that come through the museum?
Have you had an opportunity to ever engage with them?
Absolutely. We've guided tours. We bought a video camera much like the one that you're using now, because sometimes you would end up talking to somebody that you didn't even know was coming. And in one case, it was a gentleman who was literally going around the world on a Harley. He was from France.
Which, now that's become a thing.
Yeah. You touched upon it before. There's a freedom factor. Mm-hmm. And I think there's that, it can become addictive. And sometimes, if you ride one day and you feel great at the end of that ride and you want to do it again the next day, and if your time allows, we got some information yesterday about a gentleman from China who's had a bike for 13 years, and he'll pay to have that motorcycle shipped to another country so that he can tour America on his Harley, or Australia, or all these, Eastern Europe. We have just countless stories where they intended to do that, or even cases of a woman named Della Cruz in 1915 who started just kind of ambling around the U.S. over the course of that year, and she had covered, I believe, 5,000 plus miles in the space of a few months. Got a puppy, named the puppy Trouble, and she said, "There's the only trouble I'm going to have on this trip." There's a fantastic story with the first women to go transcontinental on a motorcycle was a mother and daughter from Brooklyn, New York. Rode all the way across the U.S. to San Francisco to go to the Panama Pacific Exposition, and rode all the way home. And told stories like he brought a pistol to be ready for rattlesnakes. According to one story, they suffered a flat tire, and between that spot and the next place they could replace the tire, they took a section of blanket, rolled it up, and put it inside. They brought a small jar of Atlantic Ocean water with them so they could pour it into the Pacific and then bring Pacific water back to... I mean, You just can't make that stuff up. The last several years, Harley has an event here in Milwaukee called Homecoming. It started with the 5-year anniversaries, and they just started doing it every year. Today it's called the Harley Owners Group. It's the factory-sponsored motorcycle club, but an entire hog chapter from Malaysia came and rented Harleys in California, rode them to Milwaukee, then to Sturgis. I don't know how you could not make friends in this culture, but yeah, it's just. But the part of that is that Arthur Davidson built that dealer network. We came to learn relatively late in the game. He and his wife were travel buffs, and so he's using all of this travel to recruit new dealers or recruit field salespeople in those countries. I mean, people could buy Harleys in Japan by 1912. They had a regional office in London by 1914 that was covering Western Europe. Just boggles my mind. And
You mentioned, you used the word hog.
Yeah.
Explain that for the non-motorcycle people.
so hog is, in the modern era, we think of it as the Harley Owners Group, but that was not the first time. Hog, by the way, now is Harley-Davidson's stock symbol on the stock market. There's evidence from the 1960s. We know a dealer started referring to larger bikes as hogs and smaller bikes as piglets. He said because they eat up the road. And there's also an association that some people have seen where there was a very famous race, and in 1920, the racer, first of all, the race team would bring mascots. Dogs, a fox, maybe a chicken, and one of the races it was a piglet, and it's become a very iconic photo. After he won the race, he had a sense of humor, and he's jokingly offering a drink of Coca-Cola to the piglet, but it's become this very iconic photo.
Who is the Harley-Davidson rider these days?
I don't think you can categorize them, really, because I think you're going to find an array of professionals and tradespeople, men and women. There's been a rise in years of, minorities and women. Another myth is that Harley riders tend to be much older. People would be surprised that there's a annual indoor motorcycle show here in Milwaukee called Mama Tried, and how many young builders. And some of these people are geniuses. We have a bike on display downstairs that was built more as an art piece by a younger woman who's in Boston, Massachusetts, and she's got a shop. So it's really, it's such a wide array. I don't know how you could characterize them. I think just the passion for Harley is really what unites them. And that, like I said, that it's the people that have kept me here for 27. Not that the collections aren't cool, because the collections are extremely cool.
But that's the one thing, you say that you're a Harley rider, you instantly have connection with other
A
Harley.
common bond.
Yeah.
Yes. The wave.
The way.
Yes.
The left hand, you've done it. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like this. Yes,
That in itself, that was a bonding thing for us.
absolutely.
I was a rider when we met. And yet, not a lot of people would have climbed on the back of that if they'd never done it before. She did and instantly fell in love.
Right.
You hear those kinds of stories?
Absolutely. And not just from, let's say, as you describe, a passenger who's, in the early days of being a passenger. This was reported to me by a colleague who's now retired, that the gentleman had ridden his whole life and the wife did not. But when they came to the museum, the wife said in his presence, "I get it now." Because just seeing this history, which we've had people come here and get very choked up. And like this case behind me, we will never be done telling the story of a woman named Dorothy Dot Robinson, who was our dealer in Detroit, Michigan, and co-founded the world's first, the first national women's motorcycle club, the Motor Maids. Oh, you can't fake that kind of thing, ridden, right? And I absolutely believe a million miles of the stories that we want to tell. And that's just one. We could go on and on and on about the people who, if maybe they did something else. They didn't start a club. They came up with some new design or something like that. What a privilege it is to be able to talk to these people. Ooh, sorry.
It's not what I do. It's who I am.
Yep.
Is it who you are?
I think so. I just wish people could meet the people I get to work with in this company. So many memories over the years. Daily access to the Harley customers in my job. I can't believe they pay me to do this.
Let's not tell them that.